Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to our class on logic and critical thinking. Today we will be discussing some of the fundamental concepts that include what logic actually is, the propositions and arguments, and recognizing arguments. Now, why are these important? Because in our daily life we are constantly bombarded with multiple sources of information. We get information from news channels, from advertisements, from politicians, even from our family and friends. Not all of this information that we are getting from everyone is reliable. Logic is actually a tool that gives us the mental capacity to separate that kind of information that is misleading from the information that is logically sound. Think of logic as a filter, just like we use a filter water to remove the impurity from that of the original water. We use logic to remove the mistakes in our argumentation. By the end of today's lecture, you will be not only able to understand the concepts of logic, but you will be able to apply them as well. Let's start with what actually logic is. Logic is the study of reasoning, the principles that basically allow us to draw a conclusion that really follows from an evidence. The formal definition of logic will be that it is a science that evaluates the arguments and reasoning, making sure that does the conclusion makes sense or is there a mistake hidden inside. Now the question arises, why do we need logic? Imagine two friends. The friend A says, "It is cloudy today, so it will definitely rain." Friend B says, "It is cloudy today, but it doesn't always rain when there is a cloudy weather." Who is more logical? Clearly, friend B. Why? Because friend A jumps to a conclusion without enough evidence. Logic basically helps us to avoid this kind of careless reasoning. Now, we see logic in our real life as well. For instance, in the courtrooms where lawyers use logic to present evidence and convince the judge. In business, the managers use logic to make decisions about investments. In personal life, you all use logic to decide that should I buy this phone? Should I trust the news? Logic is literally everywhere. In fact, even advertisements use logic, though often faulty logic, to convince us. For instance, we come across an advertisement about shampoo in which it is being said, "Buy this shampoo because 9 out of 10 models use it." It looks like reasoning, but is it sound? Well, not really. Models must use it, but that doesn't prove that it is good for you. Logic helps us to analyze such claims. Another interesting topic that we are going to discuss today is about valid versus invalid reasoning. Let us start with a valid kind of example. For instance, it is often said that all humans are mortal. Ahmed is a human, therefore Ahmed is mortal. Here is a conclusion that must follow. As we see that since Ahmed is human, so he will be mortal as well. Let us discuss an example and then contrast it with a kind of a valid example that is an invalid example. For instance, all cats are animals. All dogs are animals. Therefore, all dogs are cats. This looks logical on the surface, but it is completely wrong. Logic is good about saying beyond the surface. Let's have a quick interactive question as well. If I say that all the students sitting in this online class and enrolled in that particular XYZ university, Ahmed is enrolled in this university, therefore Ahmed is in this class as well. Is it logical or not? This is invalid. Many of you would be thinking that this is invalid. Why? Because since all the students are enrolled in this class, are enrolled in the university, but this doesn't mean that Ahmed is part of this class as well. He may be the part of another class that may be being offered in another department. It looks like logical, but it is invalid. Why? Because just being enrolled in the university doesn't mean that Ahmed must be in the same class as well. Let's come to another topic, that is about propositions and arguments. Now that we know what logic is, let's talk about its building blocks. Propositions. A proposition is a statement that can be either true or false. That's it. Simple. For instance, water freezes at 0 degrees centigrade. That is true. The moon is bigger than Earth. That is false, even though both of them are classified to be called as a proposition. Multan is the capital of Pakistan. Again, false. So, sometimes there can be some non-proposition statements as well. For instance, some commands like close the door. It can neither be true nor false, which is why it can be classified as a non-proposition statement. Then another example can be questions. What time is it? So again, this question statement doesn't hold any kind of truth value. Then we have exclamations. Wow, amazing. They cannot be classified to be called as either true or false. So in logic, we deal only with propositions because they allow us to test reasoning. Let's come to another topic, that is about arguments. Now, what is an argument in logic? An argument is a set of propositions where the premises provide the reasons for accepting another, that is the conclusion. Always remember that in logic, an argument is not about fighting, it is about reasoning. Let us start this topic of argumentation with a good example. For instance, premise number 1 is all mammals are warm-blooded. If you have a premise number 2, that dolphins are mammals, conclusion will be that dolphins are warm-blooded. Why? Because this is valid and conclusion follows the premises. Let us contrast it with a bad kind of an argument. Example 2. We have premise letter 1. Some people in Pakistan use mobile phones. Premise number 2, that Ali uses a mobile phone. The conclusion will be Ali is from Pakistan. The conclusion doesn't follow. Why? Because people in every country use phones. Every time someone tries to convince you, they are giving you an argument, whether it is a politician, a teacher, or even a YouTuber. By understanding the arguments, you become kind of a critical thinker instead of a passive listener. Here is the statement that I am giving it to you. It is raining, so the streets will be wet. Can you identify the premise and conclusion in that very particular statement that I have just shared? The streets will be wet, that will be the conclusion. And how this conclusion is being supported? It is because of the premise that it is raining. Now let's learn how to spot arguments in our everyday life. Not all the statements are arguments, some are just descriptions. Step 1. Look for a conclusion. The conclusion is the main point someone is trying to prove. For instance, you should study hard because success requires effort. The conclusion will be you should study hard. And the premise is that success requires effort. So the very first step is to look for the conclusion. The second step is look for premises. Premises are the supporting reasons. Without them, a conclusion is just an opinion. The third step is watch for indicator words. Certain words signal premises and conclusions. Conclusion indicators include like therefore, thus, so, hence, it follows that, etc. Just like we have conclusion indicators, we do have premise indicators as well. For instance, because, since, given that, for the reason that. Let us share another example to make the concept more clear. Since exercise improves health, you should go for a walk every day. Here we have a premise indicator with the word since, and we have a conclusion indicator as well, that is, you should. Let us discuss some examples of arguments versus non-arguments. An argument can be, smoking causes cancer, therefore you should avoid smoking. In that very particular argument, we do have a premise and a conclusion as well. In a non-argument, we may come up with a simple example, that is, smoking causes cancer. So there is no conclusion drawn. It is just a normal statement. Now the question arises, why recognizing arguments matter? It matters a lot. Why? Because it helps us in certain aspects. For instance, it helps us in avoiding being manipulated by weak reasoning. By analyzing and recognizing the arguments, one can engage in debates more effectively. And not only this, perhaps the most important of all, by recognizing the arguments in the best possible form, one can make smarter decisions in his or her life. Logic is kind of a mental self-defense, Just as you wouldn't leave your home unlocked, you shouldn't leave your mind unprotected against weak arguments as well. So let's quickly recap what we studied in today's lecture. Logic is the science of correct reasoning, helping us separate valid reasoning from invalid reasoning. And propositions are the statements that can either be true or false. These are the building blocks of an argument. And arguments are the set of propositions where premises supports a conclusion. And to recognize the arguments, one should look for conclusions, supporting premises, and certain kind of other indicator words. By practicing logic, you will definitely train your mind to think more clearly, to argue more persuasively, and to make better decisions. In our upcoming sessions, we will dive into different types of other arguments and how to evaluate whether an argument is valid or not. Thank you for listening. Allah Hafiz.